Hello, my name is Damian Demasi, and this is my presentation for the Knowledge Management subject at Kaplan Business School. I have chosen a case study that involves a company in which I worked for the past 7.5 years. This is a mobile telecommunications company from Argentina, and nowadays it serves over 20 million people, so it's a rather big company. There, I worked in a team that had two subgroups, subdivisions. One of the groups was a project management team in which I was involved with, and the other one was an application support team. Basically, in the project management team, we deployed certain applications like ticketing systems and alarm monitoring systems. And the application support group was in charge of supporting these applications once they were deployed. So there was a problem in the team because we didn't have a correct interconnection between both teams, and we needed a knowledge management system to deliver proper support of the applications. I personally tried to implement knowledge management systems without really knowing what they were back then. And of course, I failed. I think that the main mistake was that I believed that the tool was everything. And if I managed to implement the right tool, people will use it, but that's not the case. The lack of knowledge management system in the team brought certain business impacts, like poor response time when facing issues with the applications. The rapid pace of the application's deployment didn't allow us to proper train the support group team. So there was like a lack of connection between both teams due to this rapid deployment methodology. Then we needed to do repeated tutoring to the group because they didn't have very clear how to solve the issues that were presented. Another impact was that in emergency situations, the chaos and uncertainty was present because they didn't know really how to interact or how to act in those kind of situations. There was a lack of standardization in the solutions. Each member of the team gave their own solutions, but maybe those solutions weren't the most efficient or the proper solutions. This behavior make us look like unconnected and unprofessional to the rest of the customers inside the company. And there was a culture of not documenting things, actually. There was a common motto that said something like, why I will document this if I already know how to do it? So what I needed to do is change that mindset, that culture, but of course it was not easy to do. And now I understand why. I will explain a little bit later about that. The knowledge management systems that the team had really weren't there. There wasn't actually a proper knowledge management system. The closest to a repository was a shared folder in a server, server located in another department in the company. The knowledge management actually was performed on one-on-one, just talking with people, and it was on demand. So the solution that I'm presenting here is a knowledge management framework to address these issues. So this is the knowledge management framework that is here at right, and basically it addresses the knowledge itself, trying to define what knowledge is and how to deal with it, and then success factors for the framework, addressing management factors, organizational factors, human factors, and technological factors. So starting with knowledge, we can see that we have first, we need to identify what is knowledge. So knowledge is more than just data or information, it's actually contextualized information. So in this case study, not only technical data about the applications will be knowledge, but also lessons learned during the deployment of the applications, business areas that the applications might have an impact on, know how about how to solve the issues that were affecting the applications, and the escalation procedures in case facing critical problems. Then we need to know how to create the knowledge. So we are trying to go from tacit knowledge to explicit knowledge, trying to document the relevant information regarding experiences and lessons learned that might help the support team. Then we need to create the know what, meaning the facts and events that might affect the software. The know how, basically practical knowledge about how to solve the issues. And the know who, the communications channels with the suppliers and third-party vendors that will need to be contacted in case of an emergency. Then we need to be sure about how to store the knowledge. Storage needs to be something that is easily to access, must have a central repository. This will be described in the technical factors later on. And it should be ideally be able to enable the just-in-time learning, because when the team member needs to address the knowledge is already a critical situation and they need to address it in a particular moment. So after the storage, we need to share the knowledge. Knowledge is transferred and exchanged between the groups back and forth from the project management group to the support group and vice versa. This will be accomplished by the IT tools that I will explain later. And to succeed with this sharing of knowledge, we need to ensure an adequate organizational context, suitable cultural characteristics, the interpersonal, team, and motivational factors that must be aligned. And all of these topics, I will explain it later. Then we need to apply the knowledge. In order to apply the knowledge, we need to be sure when to do it, when there is an issue with the application, the level of impact that the problem will have must be clear. Certain service level agreements that we need to cover will have to be there. And human and organizational factors will play a key role in this applicability of knowledge. So continuing, we are going to cover the management factors of this framework. Basically, the management factors address the strategical view at the management level and how there needs to be a common alignment between all the managerial positions in the team and the company. For example, management, bosses, and team leaders. Each group had a team leader, and both groups reported to a boss that in time reported to a manager. We need to put in place metrics, because we need to measure the performance of the knowledge management framework. This could be like the amount of quality of the documentation generated, how often the documentation is updated with the feedback from the users, how often the documentation is accessed, and the effectiveness of the knowledge application. Finally, we need to address accountability. This is key for the knowledge management framework to survive. We need to basically address an owner to this knowledge management framework. That could be the manager, the boss, or the team leaders. Moving on, we are going to cover the organizational factors of this framework. We need to create processes that will address things like when the documentation must be created. This will be ideally before the project finishes and just before the deployment of the applications. What informations need to be included in the documentation? For example, the application's connectivity information like IP address, the troubleshooting of the most common problems, and how to properly escalate to the respective context on an emergency. How and when to include feedback in the documentation needs to be addressed by procedures. What will be the storage methodology that we'll be using, and how knowledge will be shared and accessed by the team members. Then the company structures must be in place to allow knowledge sharing to flourish and to ensure the survival of the knowledge management framework. Establish clear directives and structures generated with the team consensus will be ideally, because every member of the team will feel part of the procedures and will take them in a better way. Moving on, we are going to cover the human factors of this knowledge management framework. Basically, we have different employees with individual characteristics, and they will need to be coached and trained in order to raise awareness about the importance of being a part of a knowledge management based team. Leadership roles will provide the guidance and support to enable cohesive teams' behaviors regarding the knowledge. And culture of trust needs to be in place, and this is very important because we need to guarantee the transparency, the confidence in interpersonal interactions, the knowledge sharing, the feedback. And all of this can be achieved by, for example, recognizing a well-performed job, give employees a voice in the process planning stage, maintain constant communications inside the team, encourage relationship building inside the team, for example, by doing a breakfast with the whole team on Fridays. And leadership should show authenticity and vulnerability, and encourage team members to make mistakes and learn from them. Moving on, we are going to cover the last topic, that is technological factors. The infrastructure that supporting the knowledge management must be reliable, upgradable, easy to maintain, and ideally cloud-based, because if it is cloud-based, it will be easier to access and to migrate in the future. I'm going to discuss two tools that I think that are the most important in this framework. For team communications, I'm recommending using Slack. Slack is ideally used for ideas interchange and to keep the team's communications centralized. So no more emails in which you need to worry about who to copy and when. Everything needs to be centralized in this tool, Slack. Then the framework recommends to establish a collaborative space and knowledge repository. This will be done through the tool Atlassian's Confluence. This will serve to generate knowledge, store it, share it. These are just recommendations. Team members should share their favorite tools. A consensus might be achieved, but without sacrificing the infrastructure requirements and the tool's characteristics of being agile, quick, smart, and responsive. So to conclude, the knowledge management framework presented a well-defined notion about what knowledge is, how can be created and shared, and the key factors to take into account for the success of this framework in the long run. When I started implementing the knowledge management systems a couple of years ago, what I thought was that if I could find the right tool, people will start using it and knowledge will start flow inside the team, but that wasn't true at all. Now I see that knowledge management is much more than just a tool. It also includes people and their individual characteristics, the organizational strategies and the support from the management, an adequate culture, processes, and much more. Thank you.